Hello and welcome to Soul Rising, the self-discovery studio, which is an online studio and community that aims to help people who feel lost in their world and need some support and guidance on learning about who they are so they can live lives according to their unique needs and unique gifts and talents. Hello. So thank you so much for being here. If you've clicked on this video, it's probably because you are feeling alone, you're feeling disconnected, or you're feeling a little bit unsure about what life is for you at the moment. And I'm here to tell you that's completely okay. But I thought I'd introduce myself first. So I'm Natasha. I am a qualified breathwork practitioner, a wellness enthusiast, a lover of stories and writing, and just being in the whimsical world, if I'm being completely honest. And I have just been moving through life for a really long time, feeling like I had to completely change who I was to fit in, to feel connected, to feel like I was living life purposefully and kind of according to what I thought life meant. And I know that sounds really weird because it's like, girl, you're living your life. Like, how can you not know how to live? Like, why do we need to overthink these things? But if there's a feeling that feels really strong in your world, it's really hard to ignore it. And for me, it was that feeling of loneliness. And it was during COVID, or even just before COVID, when I was in my final year of university, and I just didn't know what I was doing, and I just felt like I had no direction in life. And it took me a really long journey to from then till now, to me learning so much about why it's so important to have self-awareness and learn about yourselves and create practices for yourselves that fill your own cup, and learning what that means for you so you can live life a little bit more meaningfully, because everything that you do feels connected and aligned with your unique values and your traits. And it's not about you doing things because you think it's right and this is the right path and this is what I've always done, so why would I change it? But it's about actually living. And if that resonates, great. If it feels a bit weird but you're still intrigued, stay along. I promise it gets better. So I basically was moving through this whole world of emotions of not really knowing who I was. And I did a lot of work in therapy and in just learning more from self-development books. And I wanted to come on here to share that knowledge with you, because this is what I've done now in creating a community and an online studio where all the work that I do is based on this premise of helping people understand a little bit more about their inner voice and who they are, so that they can use that information and plug it into their everyday life and begin living life according to their values so that it feels meaningful. So people who come to the community often come into breathwork classes, which I host every month, and it's hosted online. And the aim is to really get people to kind of get quiet and stop listening to the outside noise, because this is the first step. Like, we're so switched on all the time, and it's not a bad thing because we learn so much from other people and being online, depending on like who it is that you follow. But we end up being so in our heads that we forget to be in our body and understand what this inner knowledge that we have within our world means to us. And the reason we don't do that is because it feels uncomfortable. Because, like, who's going to sit around for like 10 minutes in silence on their own? And I know that we're more in the world of breath work and meditation now, but it's still something that a lot of people don't welcome because they find it uncomfortable, they find it weird, and they think it's so strange. Like, why would you spend time journaling out your feelings? Like, why can't you just move to the next thing? But all that practice is there for a reason, and why it's so important to kind of engage in those things in your daily life, because it actually grounds your nervous system. And you realize then by doing that work that you've been operating from a place of fight and flight instead of rest and digest. So I thought a really great way to begin was to talk about my journey and how the things that I learned along the way in building the foundations of who I am could maybe help you on your journey as well. And if it resonates, it's great. If it doesn't, remember, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, because I'm talking from my own unique life experiences and the things that I've learned along the way from people, teachers, things that I've read, research that I've carried out myself. And it's not always going to land for people in the same way. So just see if it lands, and if it doesn't, that's completely okay as well. We are all living our unique life journeys, and that part is really important. So let's take ourselves back to 2020, where we were all probably going through it during COVID. It was a very uncomfortable time. Things were so different. I think we all felt uncomfortable to some degree and were figuring out a lot in our life, as not only our world was changing, but the pieces within it were shifting so much as well. And because we had so much time being on our own, I think I ended up realizing how I was so disconnected from my body, and it sounds really weird, but I was eating food and I was finding I was getting really bad stomach aches. I was getting loads of spots, and things were reacting that I was eating that I hadn't noticed before. And I think it was because we were forced to slow down and isolate ourselves. I was spending so much time with myself. I started to pay attention to how my body was actually feeling in moments instead of just being on autopilot and kind of making my food, seeing my friends, like going to work, whatever it was. And that was the biggest turning point for me because I had realized I was eating all these foods that's like something just wasn't sitting right. So I ended up seeing a nutritionist. I know you might be thinking, this privileged girl, but I could afford to see one, and my parents actually knew somebody that was recommended. So I thought, why not like try it and see? And I did a test, and it basically came back with all these things that I was intolerant to. And I just thought, I never knew that. And I didn't know I was allergic to this, and I didn't know I was intolerant to that. And I basically had to go through like an elimination diet to pinpoint those things that weren't agreeing with me to then shift my diet. And when I went through that process, like I was asking loads of questions to the nutritionist, I booked in more calls because I wanted to learn more, and I kept asking things like, how do you know this? And like, how can I be more aware of like how to improve my sleep and how can I improve my skin and my hair health and all these things? And then she just turned around to me and she was like, wow, it's so great to see that you're passionate about your health. And I was like, sorry, what? I'm passionate about my health. And it was the first time where someone had relayed a piece of information to me in a very long time that felt true. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I didn't actually know that was a quality that I had. And then that was the beginning of a very long journey. I was seeing that I kind of was just on autopilot. Like the things that I was doing every day consisted of, I mean, it was COVID, so it was a little bit different, but I was applying for jobs. I was spending a lot of time watching TV, and I was very lucky to be in a position where I was okay in health wise to be doing those things. And I just needed like an out. I needed to know that there was more to my life than just this, just by looking for jobs and seeing these jobs that I didn't really resonate with and I didn't feel like utilized all my unique skills and gifts. And I knew that I had skills, I just didn't know what they were. And so I ended up then moving into therapy, and I was very lucky. Again, this is like we're talking about a year later after I'd done nutritional therapy, lockdown was alleviated a little bit, and I had gotten a job, and it was something that I thought I wanted to do. I was working with books, I was writing and editing and designing different things online, and I thought, wow, this seems like I'm using my skills. But again, I came back to that feeling of I still feel disconnected, I still feel alone, I don't know why. And I was really lucky through my workplace where they offered an assistance employee program. So you could basically access healthcare services through that and a set amount of sessions with a healthcare professional. And I thought, you know what, I don't care about the stigma that everyone talks about with therapy, because at this point, I'm from a South Asian family household. Talking about your mental health probably wasn't as taboo. I feel like I'm probably the person that spoke about it so much in my family and emotions that they've been a lot more accommodating, but not to stereotype our own culture. But I think sometimes we, in previous days, at least in my world, wasn't something that was spoken about until it was spoken about, if you know what I mean. And I think mental health in itself, again, like up until COVID, I don't think it was as prominent in our society. And I'm so glad that it is now, because we can see how many people do like struggle and need support and need that help and need certain resources. And it's actually making us better as human beings and better as a world, because we're now accommodating to our unique needs. So when I was at that time in my life, I did feel a bit vulnerable, I did feel scared, but it just felt like the right thing to do. It felt like I was in nutritional therapy again, only we're not talking about food in my body. I'm talking about me, and I want to talk about my health, and I want to talk about who am I. And so I went through the process of applying, etc. You don't need to know all the details. Unless you do, then I can do another video about therapy if that's something that you're interested in, because I do like talking about it. But I then was in with this therapist, and I just told her how I felt, and she was just like, "Oh, I don't think you're actually lonely. I think you're just disconnected from the things that are meaningful to you because you don't know what they are." I was like, this is the second turning point for me. What? And we then used that as the basis of my sessions. And we were just talking about a timeline of our life, moving through my world and just picking up the things of my timeline up until the age of like what I was think I was maybe 23 years old at that point. Um, and just picking out, okay, like what things interested you as a child? What did you like doing? What would you like doing now? Like, where are your interests? And just all these questions. And it was so soothing to me to start that practice because it showed me that there's so many ways of looking at our world. We just need to take that step. And it felt really alleviating to me too that I began doing that because then I saw, oh, like I'm not just here. I actually do have these strengths. I have these skills. I don't maybe want to present as much as I do in my job now, as an example, but maybe I want to write articles more, or maybe I really enjoy the creative process of creating brainstorms and collaging. I want to do that in my personal world, less in my career, but whatever it is. And that brings us to the second point of something that you can do. Because if you're doing a life audit, it's so good because you're looking at who you are now, what your needs are now, where you're being drawn to, and kind of what's important for you. But doing that little timeline, and you don't have to go through every single year, but kind of just looking back if it feels safe for you, and you could do it in a healthcare setting as well with a professional. It might be really great because they'll be able to like pull out an insight if it feels safe. But just do like a little timeline, like get an A4 sheet of paper, do a timeline, and just like put the ages up from different areas in your world that you remember being enjoyable or something significant happened, and start to unpiece that and be like, hey, maybe when I was in primary school, I really hated school. And you can kind of start delving into that and thinking, okay, why did I hate school? Where did I want to spend my time? And or looking at secondary school, and it could be that maybe you loved psychology and you didn't pursue it in the way that you wanted to. Maybe you want to go back and learn again. Because sometimes when we look back at our life and we look at the things that we're interested in or we spent a lot of time doing, it's not always that we need to do those exact things again, but it's the act of whatever it was, or the environment, or the feeling that is more significant and important. And it's something that our bodies, our lives, our soul, whatever you believe in, is calling us to bring into the present moment now. So, as an example, when I was younger, I used to love having projects to do. And I think it's something probably my mum encouraged a lot, but I loved to be like writing or making things, being in arts and crafts. And it was like I always had something to do. So, when I was in moments of my life where I had done my 9 to 5 and then I had time after work, I felt myself being like, well, now I feel a bit empty. Like, I want to do something, but I don't know what it is that thing is I want to do. And it took me a really long time to realize, I was trying arts and crafts, I was going to like different exercise classes and trying out different things. And I realized it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to go back and create little projects, but I needed an outlet of the emotions that I kind of didn't get to express in my job. And it might sound a bit extra and a bit weird, but I know now about myself that I am a highly emotional person. I am very sensitive. I think a lot of us are. We just don't like to admit that because we think it's a weakness. But actually having an awareness of your emotions is a huge strength because it means that you have the emotional intelligence to be self-aware and realize what environments work for you where you can thrive and the places perhaps where you don't. It means that when you're talking to people, you're establishing relationships, whether it's professional, familial, romantic, whatever it is, you have that awareness to know how you feel around people instead of just settling for people or places or jobs or things that fill this void and this satisfaction that you get externally instead of giving it to yourself. And I think only in recent days it's something that we realize is a huge strength in our lives. So I think because I realized I was so emotionally maybe aware or sensitive, I needed some kind of outlet. And it wasn't that I needed more things to do, but the right like box or medium or whatever it was to help me express those emotions. And for me, it is meditating, it is yoga, and actually it's not doing the thing after work, it's before. Because I find that I get more depleted when I've expended so much energy that I need to actually begin my day doing something for me. And it might be the same for you, it might not, but like doing that life audit in part 1 and then your life timeline in part 2 will really help you understand more about kind of your world, what it was made up as, and how you would want it to live a little bit more. Because remember, if you have a why that is so strong, there is nothing that's going to kind of shake that foundation of why you are here to do what you do or to see the things that you want to see and be the person that you want to be. For me, and like you don't need a definitive answer as well, by the way, because it might just be like, oh my gosh, like once I know my why, like that's it. Yes, but also no, because you don't have to always believe that this is your life purpose and this is why you're here, because your purpose changes and your why will change. But what's important now is what it means for you in this present moment now, and just to be really caring and really kind to yourself, because you know we are all human beings living this life together in this crazy world that we're in. And I think it's so hard to not compare yourself to other people, to not do the things that you want to do because you're scared, or you feel like you can't, or you're not worthy, or someone can do it better, or what will my family think. But the whole point of all of this work is for you to do what's right for you, and for you to start to learn about yourself so you can build this gorgeous healthy foundation, this nourishing vibe within your body, so that you become so strong and resilient that you own yourself, you back yourself, and you trust yourself most importantly, so that you know whenever you're making a decision, whenever you're like planning something to do in your life, whenever you're choosing your partner or the friends that you want in your world or the job that you want in your life, you know that it's coming from a place of pure self trust, not validation, not because you're feeling lonely and you need a quick fix, not because you want that feeling of satisfaction. And so you're like, okay, well, if I just like stay on my phone for a little bit longer and watch that next reel or do that psychic reading, whatever it is, I'm going to immediately feel really good about myself. Like, no. I mean, those things obviously are fun and fine to do, but not when they're the basis of your foundation. So I think if you start with that work, I think it could be really beneficial, because that's what I've learned. And coming now into my journey as being a breathwork facilitator and also creating this community where I do journal prompts and meditation classes online and breathwork classes online, I feel like this isn't my full-time job, but I feel like this is the way that I want to be expending that spare energy that I realize that I have into pouring into different ways of creating meaning for other people. Because not only do I find it really fun and interesting to learn more about our well-being and self-care and how we can kind of make ourselves the best versions of ourselves while we're here on this very little time on earth, without like getting all existential, but it is true. I also know that I'm doing something really purposeful by giving back to the world. And that's really important to me, because it's not just about how I feel and this is really interesting, this is fun, but I'm really hoping that in me sharing this wisdom, it's going to land with someone out there that is feeling the way that I felt and might push them on the right direction, the right path, or give them just one little nugget of wisdom that makes them think, oh my gosh, I need to like switch back up. I need to come back online and kind of move into my life in the way that I want to. And for me, for now, this feels like the right thing to do. Maybe in a couple months or years, it won't be, but that's okay. Like, we need to be a bit forgiving to ourselves and we need to allow ourselves to experience life, because that's why we're here too. Like, we are these wonderful beings that are experiencing the world around us. And if we're privileged enough to be in a position where you're on YouTube or Substack or wherever you are watching this video, I think it means that we have that spare energy to experience life in ways that other people might not be able to. And if you can do a bit of good with that, who knows what magic you're going to create in the world in the lifetime around us. So that's a little bit more about Soul Rising, the Self Discovery Studio, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and hopefully guiding you on your own unique and personal journey too. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up or leave me a comment. I'd love to get your feedback and love to know more about how this video landed and if you want more content like this. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable with me as I'm being vulnerable, sharing my unique journey, and I really hope to see you soon.